Welcome to round 2 of the 2000 World Cup trials for indoor events. We're at the Fuente de San Luis in Valencia. This is the 10th annual Valencia indoor trial, but it's the first time it's been included in the World Cup series. This, the 4th annual World Cup series, and here is a former winner. 1996, the winner of the first World Indoor Cup was Marc Colomet of Spain. He's in front of a home crowd. This man isn't. The enemy, Dougie Lampkin, 3 times world indoor and outdoor champion. Mono-wheeling the Montesa Honda, because now, of course, having made a dramatic swap from the Italian beater to the Spanish-Japanese combination of Montesa Honda, Lampkin has joined Marc Colomet on the same bike. So, deadly rivals, first and second in the world for the last 3 years. The Radson, Lampkin, Montesa Honda team. We have also with us on the Honda Fujinami, the Japanese champion, Colomet there, Graham Jarvis, Steve Colley, also representing the UK, and David Kobos, riding Bultaco like Graham Jarvis, and also like Marc Colomet on home terrain. So Valencia, a packed house of 5,000, eager to see if Marc Colomet can overturn Dougie Lampkin. Colomet, of course, won 3 of the late rounds of the Indoor World Cup of 1999 and made it a very close finish against Lampkin. But this is Takahisa Fujinami, just turned 20 years old in January. The reigning Japanese champion, but he had to miss the first round of the World Indoor Cup in Sheffield. So a little rusty indoors, perhaps. Here he is on the Coca-Cola Section 2. Safely out of that. So at the moment, Fuji Gas, as he's endearingly known, due to the fact that he's extremely hot on the throttle, finished second, of course, an impressive second in the World Outdoor Championship behind Dougie Lampkin in 1999. Into Section 3, the Hypercore section. Each of these beautifully finished sections, of course, extremely visibly sponsor labelled. And this, the first round. 14 sections, including the races and the high jump, for these guys to go round. And this is the very, very evil-looking Section 4. The Fortuna cigarette section. Massive series of steps for these guys to get up. Fujinami, unusual amongst top-line trials riders in that he's a pretty short guy. So he needs a lot of timing and sheer muscle power to get up something like this. And he's not going to make it. His minder grabs the front wheel of the Honda. And Fujinami 5's Section 5. Beg your pardon, 5's Section 4. He's been clean so far. Never really looked like he was going to make that step. That is a tricky one, that very last one. And only just gets up onto Section 6, the Biancaja. Martin and Dougie Lampkin discussing things in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there. Always useful to see what other people are doing before you go out and tackle these hazards yourself, because remember, these guys get no opportunity to practice. Now, what's really fearful is that Fujinami has to turn round and do it again the other way. And this is a huge step up. Here he goes. Oh, and he's not going to make it. It got far too big a rebound, a huge amount of air. And if there's air between your tyre and the board, you get no grip at all. So Takahisa Fujinami, he 5's Section 6. He also 5'd Section 10. And in the end, had a massive 21-point loss. So he was well out of the reckoning in the first lap. The next man out, David Kobos, on the Bultaco, here in Section 7. Well, Kobos has already, like Fujinami, 5'd Sections 4 and 6. So can the 20-year-old from Barcelona do any better now? He's riding the Bultaco Sherco, which he, of course, debuted early in 1999 before breaking his leg in Amnéville. in March of last year. Made a brilliant comeback towards the end of the season, a very brave comeback towards the end of the season. He, of course, finished 5th in Sheffield, the opening round of this World Indoor Trials Championship. So now moves into section 8. Another tricky section here for Kobos and the Bultaco. And he has to drop a long dab there. Only one mark lost, as long as he just keeps that foot down the once. Now gets himself stable. And tries again. This, the El Corte Ingles section. So far just one down. The crowd on the edge of their seats. And David Kobos on the edge of his saddle, and I think he's going to make it out. Fujinami looking a little bit crestfallen in the background, sitting watching. Just one mark lost for Kobos then in section 8. Moves on to section 9. And this, the EI Systems computer store section, as you can see from the magnificent purple and yellow decor. A neat right turn up on top of the computer. Kobos eventually finished 18th in the World Outdoor Championships last year, coming back just for the last 2 rounds in Switzerland and Italy, scoring a total of 15 points. Very brave return indeed. Very likeable guy, speaks his English as any Yorkshireman would because he's a great friend of Martin Crosswaite's, stays with Martin when he's across in England. So his natural born tongue, where English is concerned, is Yorkshire. Okay, on to section 10, the terrifying Fortuna waterfall. Now he's got to go up and down and back up again. So this is a supreme test. A lot of these sections are short, with there being so many of them. I suppose if you've got as many sponsors as they're fortunate enough to have here in Valencia, you need to make plenty of sections for those sponsors. The crowd like that. So what Kobos has to do now is trickle back down, travelling considerably slower than the water around him, turn himself round and head back up. This is the 272cc Sherco engine Bultaco. Here he goes. Oh, and there he went, but not quite. Well, he had his foot down as he slithered backwards then, but they're obviously, this is Spain, he's a Spaniard, they're going to be at least passably lenient, but the left foot has to go down as well, so 2 marks gone so far. The crowd getting behind him. Oh, tenuous grip for that rear Michelin. Can he get up on top? All he has to do is get this last little bit. Yes, he does it. David Kobos on top of the waterfall. The crowd liked that. So 2 marks lost there. A further mark down in one of the races, and David Kobos ended up with a total of 14, which was at least 7 better than Fujinami. And the next man out is his Bultaco teammate, the Briton Graham Jarvis, originally from Kent, Canterbury, and now resident with the Bultaco importer, of course, and his mentor Malcolm Rathmell in Harrogate, Yorkshire. Jarvis on section 2. Bultaco, as I said, 272cc steel frame bike, weighs in at about 71 kilograms. course, we saw Jarvis win a dramatic contest, indoor contest in Toulouse, not a round of the World Cup. But he beat Lampkin, a rare feat in itself, in a startling tiebreaker. So Graham Jarvis on good form. Now this is a real test of his good form, isn't it? This awesome staircase. This event in the Fuente de San Luis, Valencia, the 10th year that they've run here. Their first year as a World Cup round. Can Jarvis prove that he's got what it takes in the World Cup series? He tends to perform better when the pressure's slightly off and he's not in the World Cup. Here he goes! Oh no, he's not there. Jarvis fails to get the lift on the Bultaco, and that's yet another 5 on that awesome section 4. And that is really proving very, very hard. Nobody up there yet. Graham moves on to section 7. The Fortuna fag packets. Jarvis, of course, finished 4th in the Outdoor World Championships, pipping Steve Colley at the end of last season, having changed from the French-built Scorpa to the Spanish Bultaco mid-season. Actually, after 2 rounds, to be honest. So he did 2 rounds on the Scorpa, 8 rounds on the Bultaco, with dramatic results after he made that change. In fact, he was on the rostrum the first time out in Belgium. Now he's on the relatively straightforward, very pretty and beautifully decorated, but relatively straightforward computer store section. This is section 7. Beg your pardon, change that, section 9. So far with 2 5s on section 4 and section 6, Jarvis has totalled 10 marks lost. But he went on to lose 3 races in succession, which knocked him up to 13 marks in total at the end of that heat lap. And in the end, that wasn't good enough, because 3 guys tied on 11, Mark Colomé, Steve Colley and Dougie Lampkin, and they were the guys after the first lap who featured in the final here in Valencia. Back to Valencia and the final. The first one off after this, I don't know, they must have drawn straws out of a pint pot, but Mark Colomé is the first guy out, so he's got to feel his way through the sections, 1 section at a time. He does section 1, Steve Colley follows him, and then Dougie Lampkin, Colley and Lampkin in fact, closely examining what Colomé is up to. But Colomé, of course, has the advantage that Lampkin had in Sheffield, and that is he's in front of an extremely vociferous home crowd. He's also, and I'm never sure whether this is an advantage or not, got the equally vociferous Salvador Garcia yelling at him all the time. Colomé, clean out of section 1. Crowd goes suitably spare. So this is the Green Coast section. He takes the Montesa Honda out of it. Steve Colley takes the team Jordi Taras Andorra Gas into it. Right-hand man Paul Gamble, attentive as ever as minder. Martin Lampkin visible through the rear wheel there, keeping an eye on things for what his son's got to face as the 3rd man out. Now Colley's got to get this turned round. Oh, and he's slipped and dropped a left foot, so a mark down for Colley on the first section. Oh, and another one. And once Steve's concentration begins to evaporate, it goes, I was going to say in cartloads, it's a bit unfair to say that, but I think he'd be pretty unhappy with that. 2 marks lost on the first section, shaking that beautifully decorated head. He can't believe it, can he? All 6'3" of him. He's obviously saying to Paul, what happened then? Paul's thinking, I better go back to stealing cars in Leeds instead of helping out this guy. And this is what happened. He just lost, he almost cased it then, so he couldn't get that back wheel to pick up. Had to put his foot down to help it round. What can Lampkin do? Perfect there. says his father. His father, of course, won his World Championship on a bull taco. The first generation bull tacos. These bikes, incidentally, they have this particular one has a 35-centimetre ground clearance underneath that dash plate. Martin checking his watch because the timing is on individual sections. And he forces his son out there by sheer force of verbal power. Go on, get out of that section. Steve must be disappointed. He and Lampkin are talking to one another. Probably just can't quite believe that he dropped 2 marks. So there we are, level pegging on 0 for Colomé and Lampkin. Colomé now moves on to the Coca-Cola section 2. Could be that Mark's done his confidence a lot of good because he's just won the first round of the Spanish Championship in Aqua Dulce, Almeria. Beating Mark, actually a 3-way tie for second place between Mark Fresher, Adam Raga and Jose Manuel Alcaraz. They sorted themselves out in second, third and fourth places on furthest cleans. Marc Colomé was the winner of the first round outdoors in Spain. Martin Lampkin looking slightly anxious in the background, perhaps realising that this kid Colomé's on form. Colomé clean out of section 2. I must ask him if he's ever been a boxer in his time. That profile would certainly indicate that he might have been. 3, 2, 1, go. Steve Colley. Now just take a deep breath and take it slightly easier, Steve. The man from the Isle of Man. This is, of course, a full-blooded 200, a real one-off, a full-blooded 280cc gas engine, not the 272cc production engine. Gets worked on by Graham Samuel in the Isle of Man. Graham Samuel, who used to believe it or not, tune Marlboro Yamaha road racing works bikes, and also worked at the Kreidler factory in Germany, where he honed his 2-stroke skills. And he has enlarged the ports and cylinder of this 280cc gas to give it the extra power, particularly at higher revs that Steve Colley demands. Doug Lampkin, next man out, on the mere 250cc Montesa Honda, but of course it's a Honda engine, and Honda do build fantastic motors. Also has the Honda factory suspension, Showa front forks and rear shock. And also the advantage in weight, because it's got an aluminium perimeter frame. The Montesa Hondas of Lampkin and Marc Colomé weigh in at a mere 68 kilograms against the 73 kilograms of the steel perimeter frame gas, which is quite a considerable difference. Lampkin also clean section 2. So he and Colomé, of course, throwing down the gauntlet with every clean that he achieves. Lampkin's got to match it. So far the sections are pretty straightforward. Having said that, Dougie's sweating a bit out there. 5,000 people hoping that he'll sweat a bit more yet, and that this man might be the boy to bring home the bacon on home territory. Onto the Hypercourse section 3. Constant support from a man who, the Catalan, very, very popular throughout Spain. Marc Colomé, world champion, World Cup indoor and outdoor world champion in 1996. Before that, in 1993 and 95, he'd finished runner-up in the world to Jordi Taras, and then from 97, 98 and 99, he lost out to Dougie Lampkin. He must have thought that all his troubles were over when Jordi Taras retired. Not so, because Dougie Lampkin appeared. Now 25 years old, once known as El Prodigio. When he was a kid, he exits section 3, still clean. Steve Colley gets himself set up with the gas. Paul Gamble gets his stopwatch running. Collie certainly does use plenty of those revs on the 280cc gas gas when he first hits those high steps. This is a chrome steel frame, and intriguingly a 3.5 litre fuel tank against the 2 litre, the smidgen little 2 litre fuel tanks on the Montesa Hondas. Grunts his way out, still clean, so Colley's still just 2 marks behind the front runners, and of course guaranteed a rostrum place. He finished second in Sheffield, and a very good second in Sheffield, pushing Colomé down to 3rd place. So this World Cup is going to be a hard-fought one. Martin Lapkin telling Dougie how long he's got. And Dougie, sometimes he just makes something like that look like a main road, doesn't he? He was upset with himself, although he won in Sheffield. He didn't feel he rode very well, felt he rode rather tense, made a lot of mistakes. Has obviously more riding time now on the Montesa to familiarise himself with the characteristics of the Honda engine. Certainly looked comfortable through there. But of course the next section is the big one. Now in the first round, this fearful Fortuna section 4 was actually cleaned by Steve Colley. I'm deeply dismayed at the fact that Dorna, who put this programme together for us, didn't see fit to show us that clean. It must have been something pretty remarkable. But these guys have now got to try and see if they can emulate that feat. Salvador Garcia at the top, and the crowd right there behind Marc Colomé, all 5,000 of them. So far he's got a clean sheet. Can he keep it that way? Just crawls his way up there. Now he needs to get as much as he can, as much grip from as far away as possible. Salva giving him the salvo of instructions. Here he goes, and he can't make it. Nowhere near. What that clean of Steve Colley's must have been like in the heat, we can only imagine. Pretty extraordinary. Oh, that's a neat way off. Marc Colomé takes a very, very dramatic shortcut. Having not really got anywhere near, you've got to at least shift the centre of balance on that sump shield as you hit the edge there and be able to force it right up on top. Now, what can the Jordi Taras team Andorra Gas of Colley achieve? He knows he's done it once. What a huge, huge advantage it would be for him if he could do it again. Colley looking comfortable so far, using those long, long legs to advantage. But of course he's not Spanish, so the crowd aren't... Oh, he's giving himself as much as he can. Oh, and he nearly got there. But Paul Gamble has to grab the front wheel. Oh, look at all those smug Spanish faces in the background thinking, that's good he didn't make it. So Steve Colley also takes the quick route down. Martin Lampkin takes the slow route up. Oh, Colley did get close to that, didn't he? How on earth did he get up before? An ironic cheer from the crowd as Martin Lampkin manages to reach the summit unaided. Can Dougie Lampkin do the same? He 5'd it in the first round, but still ended up with that 11-mark scoreline. It's a very pretty back wheel, the way that they've the new back wheel on the Montesa with the intricate spoking system there. Doesn't even spoke into the rim. Very clever indeed. How clever is Lampkin getting up here? Watch this. He's got to give himself as much as he can. Here he goes. Oh, and nearly. Martin Lampkin did not want to grab a hold of that. Valencia's best spectators deeply unimpressed. Well, and we thought that Sheffield had a lot of extremely perverse and biased Yorkshire folk watching. Look how close Dougie got then, and not an ounce of emotion in the background. The battle's still on. Welcome back to Valencia and Marc Colomé. Everybody having 5 section 4, still level pegging between him and Dougie Lampkin. Into section 5, what can Colomé do? This is a tough one. The Segura Viudas numero uno. The crowd suddenly come to life when Colomay's out there. Brilliantly recovered. Now he's got a sharp left turn. How would you like to turn sharp left from there? Oh, and he's off. Colomay cleans section 5. Once again, setting a vicious target for the men to follow. Steve Colley. Who did a wonderful job of trailblazing the sections at Sheffield. So nearly a winner. Oh, and just loses his balance. A simple loss of balance right at the end, and another mark down for Colley. Seems to be looking at pauses to say, what the hell did I do then? So that's 3 in total. The rolling total for Steve Colley now 3. Beg your pardon, it's not 3 at all because he's 5 and 2, 7, 8 marks down so far. Dougie Lampkin, just that failure on section 4. Great facial expressions from an apprehensive Martin then, escaping with his life and diving for cover, deciding that his son can manage these number 1s on his own. Plenty of time, says Martin, and out goes Dougie. So still matching Mark Colomay blow for blow. They both 5 the almost impossible section 4. Otherwise, they've cleaned sections 1, 2, 3, and 5. We move on to Biancaja, where we've seen, of course, a pretty hefty succession of failures. We actually saw in this programme Takahisa Fujinami failing to get up onto the huge step when they have to turn around and come back. Well, I can tell you he was not alone. He was not alone having problems with this section, because David Kobos, Graham Jarvis, Mark Colomay, Steve Colley and Dougie Lampkin all 5'd it in the heat. So this section has not been cleaned. In fact, no one's got any further than this step back up. Here's Mark Colomay. What can he do about it? Everybody gathering, well, everybody, Colley and Lampkin, look at them, gathering eagerly to see what he can do. Here he goes. Look how far up he's having to look from where he is. Oh, and he's there! Colomay gets up. Salva triumphantly railroads off. Just one quick dab. A brilliant performance. That's the first time anyone's got back up, and there's a man who is elated, and there's an audience that is thrilled. Now Mark Colomay has set a target. The Fortuna Red Bull rider on the Montesa Honda has said to Dougie Lampkin, equal that if you can. So he moves to a total of 6. Wow, look at how much lift he got, but not too much rebound. He got the thing to drive straight up so that he could manage to land it, drop it on top. Oh, Steve, be careful. Oh, Steve falling a little bit short. This is a difficult one. He's got to somehow... Don't forget, it's all right as long as those toes and heels tickle the ground, if they're on, as long as they're on the footrests. But that's not on the footrest now. That's 1 mark down for Colley. In the end, he just had to realise that with the time limit as well, he needed to get moving. He needed to get that back wheel up. OK, now here we go. Colomay has proved that this is possible. Can Colley and the Gas make it happen? The crowd are getting behind him. They're excited. Oh, he got a huge lift, but much too much rebound. Colley drops elastically back to the ground, but he's okay. Oh, look at that. It really did completely rebound, so he was nowhere near being on top once he came back to earth. Well, what has Lampkin learned from that? Look at the chin, it seems to jump more and more as the odds get stacked further against it. Make sure you balance. A nice bit of... Oh, and look at that. Where Colley had a problem, he just tickles the Montesa across the top and he's over. Typical Dougie, just take it gently down there because it's a big drop, that high impact landing. Even with the fabulous Works Honda Shore suspension. Okay, now Lampkin has got to get back up. What can he make of this? Here he goes. Oh, and he never got there. Oof, a nasty fall. Lampkin unusually hanging onto the bike as it came back down. Salvador Garcia, one of the first men. I think he cracked his head quite hard as he landed. That looked uncomfortable. Crash helmet or not. Martin Lampkin checking as sympathetic applause rolls around the stadium that his firstborn's all right, or at least reasonably all right. Ooh, that hurt. Dougie seemed he caught the front wheel there, and that really threw things backwards, and he just hung onto the bike as it came down, probably to keep it from landing on him. He fought it off. But it seems like he's okay. What he's not okay on is the score, of course, because all of a sudden there is a gap. So this man, Colomé, goes into section 8. Beg your pardon, section 7. He's got 6 marks down. Colley 13, Lampkin 10. He's got a 4-mark cushion. So suddenly, it's very conceivable that Mark Colomé could win in his home country an avenged defeat in Sheffield. Of course, in Sheffield, he was relegated by Colley to 3rd place on the rostrum. So he's 5 points behind Lampkin as they stand at the moment in the World Championship. 15 points to 20 with Colley between them on 17. These are once again looking like the guys who are going to fight out the World Indoor Cup Series in the year 2000. One man who won't be fighting out the British Trials Championship in the year 2000, of course, is this man, Steve Colley. He's riding the Italian Championships, would you believe? And in fact, his replacement for Gasgas in the British Championships is the teenaged Spaniard Adam Raga. So you guys back home, looking forward to the British Trials Championship Series, can look forward to seeing the brilliant teenager Adam Raga riding for Gasgas in that series. He'll also be contesting the European and World Championships and the Scottish 6 Days again. Incidentally, Adam Raga's tutor during his stay in Great Britain would be none other than the 10 times British champion Steve Saunders, who, if you remember, was a runner-up for Honda in the World Championship back in 1986. And these guys, Lampkin, Colomé and Takahisa Fujinami, are looking to put Honda back on top of the World Trials tree in the year 2000. Right now, level pegging between the Montesas until they reached section 6. They both cleaned that one. Next one up, the El Corte Ingles section. Evil looking set of green teeth. First one on, Mark Colomé. 25-year-old Spaniard. He cleaned this section during the heat. Colley dropped 1 mark. Dougie Lampkin cleaned it as well. At the moment, these guys just showing up in the World Cup events, at least, being just that cut above the rest. Even Graham Jarvis, whose impressive victory in Toulouse we enjoyed so much on Eurosport. Eurosport, of course, bringing you all the World Indoor Cup Trials events. The next one in Geneva, Switzerland. There goes Mark Colomé, he's clean. Steve Colley at present on 13 marks lost. The 3 races at the end of the evening, incidentally, will only feature the guys lying 1st and 2nd. So Colley just could be headed for a relatively early bath here. But certainly he's assured of 3rd place on the rostrum. Graham Jarvis will be 4th, which will equal his score in Sheffield, which will keep him 4th in the championship. Colley looking like his confidence is a little restored here. Nicely balanced. Knows he lost a slightly careless mark here in the heat. Look at those undernourished Michelins. Just enough air in them to be able to roll round. And he comes off clean, so that's better than his heat performance on that section. And he's allows himself a little smile. That's better, Steve. Colley often gets an almost supercross look to him. Lampkin knows that he's really got to stay clean. If he can reach the races and the same points deficit as you've got right now, then he's got a chance, because each time he defeats Colomé in a race, he hauls a mark back. So at the moment, he's just that 3 points behind. There are 3 races. Well, even my math can figure out that he could draw level in the 3 races if it stayed like this at the moment. And he cleans it. So Lampkin, once again, matching Colomé. Look at those eyes. Sometimes, Dougie, I think I wouldn't like to meet you in a dark alley, mate. Doug Lampkin, then, is the man fighting to stay on terms with Marc Colomé here in Valencia. We'll take a break. Dramatic final, round 2 of the World Cup Indoor Trial Series here in Valencia. And the man who's setting the stadium alight at the moment, Marc Colomé. Every section, of course, is a final in miniature, because Colomé's got to keep those zeros coming to keep the pressure on Dougie Lampkin and, to a lesser degree, Steve Colley. This, of course, the relatively easy E1 EI system. Computer Superstore section, and out he goes, clean. The pom-pom girls bounce up and down. Colomé smiles a little smile of satisfaction. Steve Colley moves into the section. 27 years old now, 28 next month, the Manxman. Been 10 years on the world scene. And he and Colomé, of course, the only people to beat Dougie Lampkin during the course of his dominant World Outdoor Championship win last year. For the first 13 rounds, Dougie won. And then when they got to the States, he lost to Colley. He lost to Colomé, rather, and then to Colley. And then he started winning again. And that was Steve Colley's first win in a World Trials round since 1993, I think it was, in Finland. Now, Doug Lampkin. He needs... He's sorting out that 4-speed box. He's knocked the very, very low bottom gear out of the Montesa gearbox. He likes it as a 4-speeder. It shows how much grunt that 250cc Honda engine has. For guys of this caliber, a pretty straightforward section, this one. Out he goes. So he's losing nothing on time, because of course time in the end could play a part in this, accumulating any points lost, any marks lost on time during the course of each individual section. The final section 10 before we move into the high jump, and then the 3 races. The Fortuna waterfall. The minders don't bother getting their feet wet, it's down to the riders. Remember the season before last, we saw on Eurosport Marc Colomé have a really drastic crash in Madrid off the side of a waterfall like this. And for quite a long while he seemed justifiably unnerved whenever he was faced with a waterfall, but he seems to have got it back now. I wonder how good as trials rider Salvador Garcia is, but he's a pretty good one. He seems to know all about what should be done. Oh, and Colomé revs that Montesa up. So the 1996 champion, looking pretty cool at the moment. He cleaned this section on the first lap. Incidentally, he lost a mark on the first lap, would you believe, in that EI system computer section. Just got to show I was talking rubbish when I said it was easy. Now this is the tough bit, getting back up here. It is just that tad more awkward than the first ascent. Oh, and he's got it there beautifully. And his cycle trials background comes into play as he skips and hops his way around at the top. The kid who didn't actually turn to motorcycles until he was 15 years old. Remarkable career. Mark Colomé, a brilliant clean and section 10. So the pressure is still on Dougie Lampkin to keep in touch. That was a great haul. Look at that. Where do they get the drive from? As well as the nerve. I mean, the last thing you want to be doing is falling down backwards from up there. Here goes Collie. Incidentally, Steve Collie will want to just have the Italians to contend within the Italian Championship. He'll also have the former Japanese champion, Kenichi Kuriyama, who rides for Beta, the Italian manufacturer that Dougie Lampkin has left. So, of course, Beta need a top-ranking representative in the Italian Championship. Kenichi Kuriyama will be him. Also, Amos Bilbao will contend that championship on Montesa Honda. And Teiichi Tanaka, the crash-prone teenage future star from Japan. Also, apparently, there's some young kids from France managed by former world champion Thierry Michaud. So there's a lot of young kids in the pipeline who will be coming through to challenge these guys. Oh, and there goes Collie. Just saving his line on the way up. He's okay. He's still clean. If he's going to end up in third place, it's going to be a jolly good third place. And he bounces out at the bottom. Collie on observation at any rate. Paul Gamble doing a lot of work there, ending up at the top of the waterfall on foot. Don't know where he's managing that. Can't see any rope ladders or anything to get you up there. Perhaps he just gets wet feet. Right, here comes Dougie. Martin on the watch, because they know that time is a factor here. And Dougie at the moment is staying clean on time. He wants to keep it that way. So he doesn't want to waste too much time here on the waterfall. I think you'll find he'll be pretty rapid as he comes down the rapids. This is where he's good. Keeping it so neat and tight, keeping things small, means that you're saving fractions of a second all the time. Martin just gets him a couple of inches to the right and then gets him on line, and away he goes, just like that. And hardly any revs at all, notice, just barks its way up, tons of torque. And Martin telling him he's all right on time, and he is all right on time. No marks lost on time for Lampkin through those 10 sections, but critically 2 marks of what the organisers entertainingly called time punishment for Mark Colomé means that he's on 8 marks lost. 1 mark for Collie puts him up to 14. So at the moment, that gives 13 to Collie, 10 to Lampkin, and 8 to this man, Mark Colomé. Over the high jump he goes, and he's clean. Remember, if you knock any of those bars down, you lose a mark for each bar that goes down, but he's looking supremely confident, isn't he? Mark Colomé, 10 marks down in the final here in Valencia. Soars across the high jump. We have seen him throw it away in Sheffield before now. Steve Collie over the high jump, and that's Steve's work done for tonight. So he bids the crowd a brief farewell. Thanks very much, folks, for your support. Collie is in third place. We'll see him on the rostrum, but from now on, it's all between Colomé and Lampkin. There goes Dougie. Got to keep this clean, and he does. Remember, in the heat at Sheffield, he came an awful splatter onto his knees. He let go of the bike mid-air, and even though he cleaned it, didn't do his kneecaps any good. But there, safe and secure. Lampkin's over. It's all down to the racers. Now there's 3 racers. 2 marks separate these guys. If Lampkin can win all 3 races, he wins the event. Colomé just has to win one of these races, and he knows the event is his. So round 2, world champion versus world champion, or former world champion versus world champion. Colomé and Lampkin was quick on the way back, but Colomé's away. Lampkin takes it. Lampkin takes it comfortably in the end, because Colomé was slow on the turn, and Lampkin just turned it round, got the drive, back up the pipe. Mark Colomé, of course, you can't afford to DNF one of these. If you crash off it, you get a 5 docked, so you'd really lose the whole thing. So Colomé doesn't want to do that. He'd rather just forsake the verdict on a race and lose 1 mark. So here they go once again. Montesa versus Montesa, Spain versus Yorkshire. Lampkin completely focused. Oh, and he's gone for the big jump right across the skip. What a brilliant start from Lampkin. So he's got himself a big advantage here. Oh, but he's just for a moment, he's stuck, and he just gets out ahead. Colomé came back at him. That puts it level pegging. That puts it 10 points apiece, 10 marks down each. It's all down to the last race. Wow. And Lampkin there having with that initial bravado, established a big lead through the skips. He almost threw it away right at the end, but Colomé cased it at the last second. Now they've got to go across this awkward series of half pipes, turn, come back, and then that huge leap at the end, shades of Sheffield. But this really is for real. It's not often these races are anything other than a bit of entertainment. This one matters. Lampkin on the... Oh, Lampkin goes out, and Lampkin's moved the carpet with his front wheel, but he seems to have survived that all right. They go for the half pipe, and Colomé gets it. Colomé's done it. It was as close as that. There were 10 centimetres in it. The crowd's up on its feet here at Valencia, 5,000 of them, raising the roof. Mark Colomé takes it by a whisker from Dougie Lampkin. He defeats the world champion to avenge his defeat in round 1 in Sheffield. And just look how close it was. Watch what happens as Lampkin dips down to turn. He shifts that blue matting completely there, which can't have helped this course any, but he seemed to manage to turn all right. It didn't seem to lose him. May have lost him just a little bit of momentum. He picks it, he recovers well, but he's not quite balanced as they go up. He moves across, just misses Mark Colomé's rear fender, and just look how close it was. Dougie's rear wheel falling just short. It's Colomé who wins it. And doesn't he look pleased with that? Colomé then on 10, Lampkin 11, Steve Colley 14, first, second and third, Graham Jarvis 4th, David Kobos 5th, Takehisa Fujinami in 6th place. Wow, that was an exciting climax indeed. I reckon you might see this man smile. Yep, nice to see, isn't it? The 25-year-old Spaniard wins round 2. This contest is still very much on. So he avenges that defeat in Sheffield, and it means that we have a situation where Dougie Lampkin is still in the lead in the championship on 37 points. This man's got 35 points, Steve Colley on 32, so it's still extremely wide open. The next round will be in Geneva, Switzerland. And we go right through until we climax at Paris-Bercy, in fact. Indoors in Paris-Bercy. And that will be on the 11th of March. And we'll have that live here on Eurosport. We'll have coverage, however, in the meantime, of the other rounds of this World Series. And Dougie Lampkin managing a smile. It has been tremendous entertainment for the crowd here in Valencia. Dougie Lampkin then leads the world on 37 points. Colomé second on 35, Colley on 32. Jarvis still in there on 26. We'll be back with Geneva. I'm Jack Bernicle. Don't forget to join me for that.
The Yaz